Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Unchained is a survivor-led NGO dedicated to ending forced and child marriage in the U.S. through direct services and advocacy, in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goal 5.3, which calls for the elimination of child, early, and forced marriage by year 2030. Unchained provides crucial legal and social services, always for free, to help individuals in the US escape forced marriages and rebuild their lives. And Unchained pushes relentlessly for social, policy, and legal changes. Founded in 2011, Unchained has been an organization in special status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council since 2017. And you're our amazing, I am their UN coordinator.
And she is amazing.
I am the only UN coordinator, and I'm proudly representing you all. Area 23 is a health advertising agency that conceived of and produced Unseen Housewives, pro bono, to raise awareness of Unchained's work to end child marriage in the US. Unseen Housewives is based on the true stories of 4 of the many American child marriage survivors who have partnered with Unchained to stop this human rights abuse from destroying more lives. Wait till you see this clip, it's gonna be exciting. The priority theme for the 67th session of CSW is innovation and technological change and education in the digital age for achieving gender equality. Can an in-your-face video clip help end child marriage in the 43 US states that still allow it and move the world closer to achieving UN Sustainable Development Goal 5.3? Let's find out, and thank you for all of you being here.
Well, thank you so much, Hootie, who has been our longtime pro bono UN coordinator. And we're very grateful to you for getting us a stage at the United Nations to raise global awareness of these human rights abuses in the US. I am Frady Reese. I am a forced marriage survivor. And from my traumatic experience, I founded Unchained at Last to combat forced and child marriage in the US. But first, before I talk more about Unchained at Last, I want to hear about all of you in the room here today and those of you who are with us on Zoom. I want to know where you are from. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you're on Zoom, if you could go to the Q&A and put in where you're from. And if you're in the room, you have a stack of cards that the Unchained team put together. And the last card is a blank card. It's orange. If you could take that and take the pen we gave you and write on it in as large possible letters so that Becca from our team and Alex and Sam can see them, write where you are from. You know what? Interpret it as you wish, either where you're from. I will tell you, I am partial to Brooklyn because that's where I grew up. So if you have a connection to Brooklyn, you might want to write that. You'll get special treatment. All right, so Alex, what are we seeing on Zoom? Where are people from? Oh, New Zealand. Okay. Okay, so New Zealand, Sweden, and lots of you. You want to give us a sample of some of the US states? Okay. Okay, we are a very diverse group online. Okay. And what about here in the room? If you could hold it up so Becca can see on this side of the room. Okay, wait, slow down. I want to repeat this so people online can hear. So we have England, Ireland, Poland, Netherlands, Belgium, Puerto Rico. This is the beauty of a United Nations event, is that you have people from around the world, but so grateful that, wait, why? We got Jersey in the house, Lebanon, and we have Brooklyn. Thank you. What about Sam? What about that side of the room?
Yeah, so we're really grateful to have people from all over. We've got Sweden, we've got Nepal, we've got Westchester, Bronx, we've got Massachusetts, California, can't read that far, Texas, Virginia, UK, Germany, Florida, people all over, Wyoming over there. A lot of places that we can end child marriage.
All right. Okay. Well, that is a very good point, Sam, because really, wherever you are from, chances are forced and child marriage are a problem. Forced and child marriage are human rights abuses that 193 countries, basically the whole world, have promised to end by year 2030. As Hootie said, under United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5.3, the whole world, we all agreed that we need to eliminate child, early, and forced marriage because these are harmful practices that are hindering gender equality. And just to give a definition, a forced marriage means one or both parties do not give full free consent. And a child marriage means one or both parties are under the age of 18 at the point of entry into the marriage. Unchained at Last is a survivor-led nonprofit, and we are determined to make sure the United States keeps its promise and ends forced and child marriage by year 2030, if possible. And we do this through a two-pronged approach. So on the one hand, we are on the front lines helping individual survivors to escape from these hellish situations and to rebuild their lives. Sam is our Senior Director of Client Services. And so she and our team work with individuals to help them escape. And then at the same time, we are pushing relentlessly for social policy and legal change because we really want to put ourselves out of business. So I want to ask you now a multiple choice question. And if you're on Zoom, you're going to answer using the poll. If you're in the room, you're going to answer using those cards that you were handed. And the question is, in which of the following countries is child marriage legal? Okay, which of the following countries is child marriage legal? Hold up your blue A card if you think it's India. Hold up your purple B card if you think it's the United States. Hold up the pink C card if you think it's Zimbabwe. And hold up the yellow D card if you think it's the Philippines. So I'll repeat that. A is India, B is the United States, C is Zimbabwe, and D is the Philippines. Okay, we have, all right, so first let's see what we have on the Zoom poll. Alex?
All right, give me one moment to end this poll. We got it launched a little bit late for people. But as it's running, I'm telling you already, it's majority United States.
Okay, so most people online are thinking it's the United States, okay? And Becca, what do you see on your side of the room? That's you. This is United States, okay? We have some all of the above, okay? We got some people who are feeling down on Zimbabwe right now. Somebody wrote in a UK, an E, none of the above, and got UK, okay? All right, and then Sam, what about that side of the room? Wait, so purple is the United States, okay? A lot of purple, United States. Well, for those of you who thought it was purple, United States, you got it right. So child marriage is happening at an alarming rate in all 4 of those countries, but only one of those countries is it legal. In the other countries, it's happening despite the laws. In the United States, it's happening because we still have archaic, sexist, ridiculous laws on the books. In 43 states still allow child marriage, 43 US states still allow child marriage, and in the 7 that have banned it, they did so only in the last few years, and only because we at Unchained at Last and our allies, some of whom are in the room, like Zanta, have been pushing and pushing and pushing and have gotten 7 states to ban child marriage as only in the last few years. And because of these really archaic, sexist laws that are putting us behind a lot of the rest of the world, Our research at Unchained At Last showed that between 2000 and 2018, 300,000 minors were married here in the United States, some of them as young as 10. Thank you for the Jesus that we got from the front row here, exactly. And almost all the children who married were girls wed to adult men. And here's another shocking statistic: at least 60,000 of those marriages occurred at an age or with a spousal age difference that should have been considered a sex crime. But all these marriages were legal. So it's happening because of the laws in the United States. Now, child marriage, let's be very clear, it is just as problematic and just as dangerous in the United States as it is in any other country. And girls here matter just as much as girls in any other country. Right here in the United States, marriage before age 18 creates a nightmarish legal trap. And this has nothing to do with maturity. We're not arguing you wake up on your 18th birthday with a newfound maturity and wisdom. It has to do with legal capacity. Even the most mature 17-year-old simply does not have the basic legal rights of adulthood and therefore cannot safely navigate a contract as serious as marriage. They cannot easily leave home if their parents are planning an unwanted wedding for them, or if they're in an abusive marriage. They cannot easily get into a domestic violence shelter. Domestic violence shelters typically turn away unaccompanied minors. They cannot easily retain an attorney to help them figure this out because contracts with children typically are voidable. The retainer agreement is a worthless piece of paper. And then get this, because minors typically cannot bring a legal action in their own name, in many cases, they're not even allowed to file for divorce. Their parent and or a judge can enter them into a marriage that they don't even have the legal right to get out of. And when girls reach out to us at Unchained to ask for help escaping and they learn of how limited their options are, many end up turning to suicide attempts and self-harm. And then marriage in the United States, like everywhere else, produces devastating lifelong repercussions. It destroys an American girl's life if she marries before 18, almost every aspect of her life, her health, her education, her economic opportunities, even her physical safety. She is much more likely to experience physical and sexual violence within that marriage if she enters it before the age of 18. So the good news is that we can easily solve this problem. I shouldn't say easily because nothing about this has turned out to be easily, but we can solve this problem. It's happening because of the laws. Obviously, we need to raise awareness and we need a national conversation about the fact that girls matter. But largely, we can solve this problem if we get the other 43 states to do what 7 states have done so far, make the marriage age 18, no exception. So imagine we've been trying so hard to get all 50 states to do this and have not been having a whole lot of luck. And that is why we were so grateful that Area 23, a health ad agency, reached out to us recently with the most creative and generous idea to produce a video in the outrageous, provocative style of a reality TV show, a trailer for a show that must not go on, and call it Unseen Housewives. And all of you today are going to be among the first people in the world to watch the premiere of this trailer for a show that must not go on. But first, imagine also how grateful we were that Kailash Satyarthi, he is the winner of the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize because of his work to end child exploitation in India. He also wanted to be a part of this event today in recognition of the global nature of the problem of child marriage and about the global nature of the fight against child marriage. So let's first hear from Kailash, who is joining us from India today. He is not here in person.
We're working on the sound.
Any minute now, we're going to hear from Kailash, I promise. Well, we can definitely see him. I'm sorry? You need 2 seconds? Okay, so meanwhile, how awesome is it to have Kailash Satyarthi? When was the last time you heard a Nobel Peace Prize winner talking at one of your CSW events? Am I right? Okay. Meanwhile, I will introduce to you the extraordinary people that I have the honor of sitting here with on the panel today. So we have, first of all, to the right, we have two of the people representing Area 23. That is the ad agency that conceived of and created Unseen Housewives, the generous and really creative minds at Area 23. We have Bruno.
Nice to meet you, Lauren.
And we have Jihan. And then I also have with me three of the child marriage survivors who are featured in Unseen Housewives. We have Fatima. And we have Jen. And we have Pat. And with us in spirit, we have the fourth child marriage survivor who is featured in Unseen Housewives. Her name is Jennifer. She cannot be here with us in person, but she's here with us in spirit. And she did submit a written statement, and I will read some parts of that today also during our discussion. And now, are we ready? Everybody I know is eager to hear from Kailash Satyarthi, the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize winner. And we're going to try. Is there anyone here from India? No.
We're working on it.
Okay. So
This
you know
is our
what?
First hybrid event.
Why don't we? Okay, we have a question already from the audience. I love that question. It was not part of my presentation, but I love talking about those 7 states. So thank you. What's your name? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry from Virginia. Unfortunately, Virginia is not one of the 7 states. It's one of the 43. But I'll go in chronological order in order of the states in which the order that they ended child marriage. The first state in 2018 was Delaware. Anyone here from Delaware? We have someone who's kind of from Delaware. Maryland is close enough. All right, and then the second state, also in 2018, was New Jersey. I know we have New Jersey in the house. All right, and then in 2020, Pennsylvania. Okay, Becca, you live in New Jersey now. You gotta get over this. Okay, her heart is in Pennsylvania. Any other Pennsylvania in the house? Okay, but anyway, good job, Pennsylvania, unanimously and remotely during a pandemic, early days of the pandemic. And then fourth state also unanimously and remotely during a pandemic, Minnesota. Anyone from Minnesota? And Pat was instrumental in making that happen. All right, what year am I up to? 2021, Rhode Island. We have Rhode Island. Is there Rhode Island in the house? No. Sam went to Brown. She lived in Rhode Island. Okay, and then also 2021, New York. Did I mention I'm from Brooklyn? All right, and yes, okay, Brooklyn, yes. And then just last year, most recent victory, Massachusetts, where Jen is from. California is going to be the last, unfortunately, if I had to predict. But you know what we could do is we could start with a panel discussion so that we, I don't want to keep you past, we were trying to get you out of here within an hour. Oh, Kailash, an hour, ladies and now people in the audience, Kailash Satyarthi.
I congratulate and applaud Unchained at Last and its executive director, Freddy Reich, for the great work you are doing to bring about human dignity in the lives of millions of girls and women in the United States of America. Dear friends, when we talk of child marriages, I feel ashamed that in spite of all the advancement and knowledge and technology in the world, our young daughters and sisters at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 are getting married. Child marriages are nothing but a social acceptance and a license to many more evils and crimes that includes human trafficking, selling and buying of girls, as well as a license of perpetual rape and sexual abuse. This is unacceptable in any civilized society. Unfortunately, in many countries, we don't have enough laws. And wherever there are laws, they are not enforced because the social law is overpowering the constitutional and state laws. So we have to build a worldwide movement where we can learn from each other, we can inspire each other. Like in India, we have a very strong law. Perhaps India is the only country that has a very clear, specific law that no girl is allowed to marry up to the age of 18 and the boy up to the age of 21. But when it comes to enforcement, we need to mobilize masses. We have to find, encourage, and celebrate such girls and boys who are standing against child marriages and emerging as champions. We have to fight for law, and such laws should be survivor-centric. We have to build campaigns across the globe, and they should be survivor-centric campaigns. And I'm sure that through an inherent compassion, we can put an end to child marriages. We can wipe out the scourge on the face of humankind. We shall overcome. Thank you.
Well, I really want to thank Kailash for those inspiring and kind words. And yes, we can find the compassion and the courage to end this human rights abuse. So I want to ask Fatima and Jen and Pat, after the trauma you endured, each of you, in your child marriage, it would have been entirely understandable to want to just put it behind you and to move on. You managed to escape, to want to move on. And instead, each of you has joined us at Unchained At Last to fight and push again and again for an end to forced and child marriage in the US. And I want to ask all of you, what made you do that instead of understandably putting it behind you?
So for me, child marriage was such a secret that for decades, I believed I was the only one. When I found out that that wasn't the case, and I'm far older at that point, I was so angry that there was actually a community of child marriage survivors. And then I found out that the laws hadn't really changed since I was forced into a marriage in 1980 as a child. And so I was really incensed and motivated to try and make sure that what happened to me stopped happening. And I found Unchained, and first thing I did was to show up at a state house and like harangue legislators. And I've never stopped since. So yeah, it's we've got to stop that. And speaking out's the only way. So
Yeah,
Okay.
for me, I was an advocate for victims of domestic violence, and I was at a shelter, and one of Brady's employees, someone who represented Unchained, was there with one of the victims, and that's how I found out about it. And as soon as I met her, I was like, I want to meet Brady, I want to join, I want to do everything that I possibly can. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, Brady's a force, if you guys don't know that. You know, it's very hard to say no to. For me, this is still very, very hard for me. I haven't been doing this as long as some people, so I'll apologize in advance. For me, I did run from it. I ran from it for a long time. I ran from him. Hell, I joined the Navy to get away from him, like anything to get out of there. And then I ran to Massachusetts, and I mean, I'm from Alabama. You don't get much worse than down there. And I thought I was safe. I mean, Massachusetts, of all places. And then I just saw a Facebook post about this thing they're doing and that there are, 1,200 girls in Massachusetts and it was still legal with no lower limit. No bottom, no floor. 1-year-old, 2-year-old. And I had to take that pain. Are you good? That I lived with every day, that I tried to run from, and it had to go somewhere, and they took me in and listened to me cry and dealt with me making them cry, and stood with me as I stood up in front of the whole world, what it felt like, and told the most horrible parts of my life. But I don't want my story to continue. I want to be the last one to ever say that. And I just want it over. And so I keep ripping the Band-Aids off until we get it done.
Yeah, and I have to say to all three of you, just what a privilege it's been to advocate alongside you. And just want to make sure you understand the impact that you have made. All three of you have helped to end child marriage in your state. In Fatima, it was New York and New Jersey. For Jen, it was Massachusetts, and for Pat, it was Minnesota. And now all three of them have continued. It's that my own state isn't enough, and continuing to push. And I also want to acknowledge you all. You're so well spoken, and you make it look almost easy. And I want to acknowledge, yes, that we see there's nothing easy about what you do. Now, all of you have joined Unchained in various ways on advocacy. So you have testified at hearings, you have shared your story with legislators, you have been involved in other videos that we have produced, like the girls you have destroyed. You have chained in with us. This is a form of protest that we invented at Unchained, where we wear bridal gowns and chains. But Unseen Housewives is a very unique kind of project. I'm curious how it compares to some of the other advocacy work that you have done.
So, it was hard, to think of. I mean, I'm here, I'm strong, I've gone through it, I've rebuilt my life, I'm very proud of where I am today. But to think of a young actress, a person of that age, it really just brought it home. Like, these are just kids. I'm an adult, so it's a little easy to go, oh, okay, somebody will make it through it. But when it's the child in front of you saying my words, they're not healed and they're not fixed. And holy crap, that takes it to a whole nother level of bravery, and it was tough.
So it was tough to see someone else portraying your story.
For me, I think that this was more confronting than the other things I've done. It seems like everything I've done has been more exposed. And so this was very visual, which I don't really relate to as well. But there was a connection for me around youth as well. In my mind's eye, and because I didn't really have a childhood, I was a fully formed adult when I was 3, just tiny. And so seeing these young actors portraying us, it was like, oh, that's the child in child marriage. I wasn't actually a fully thinking, responsible adult. I was a teenager. And so for me, that was strange. That was strange and confronting, and made me really kind of take an emotional step back and really understand that whole idea of that I was actually a kid going through this. And I'm kind of proud of her, actually, for getting through it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely surreal, because you see these teenagers are teenagers, and that's what I was, but I didn't feel like one. So I felt like a grown adult with a grown responsibility, a whirlwind of decisions that had to be made that I had no part of. So seeing the actress there, it just brought me back. It brought me back to where I had no control of anything, just being told what to do, what to wear, what to say, how to say it. And then it was completely surreal. It just made me, angry. Angry.
You know, and all three of you had your childhoods taken from you. So you're talking about how now you're watching it play out, and it's a child portraying it, and it's that reminder that yes, you were a child when this terrible, terrible thing was done to you. And I want to read what Jennifer she sent in her statement. She addressed this, and she said, "My advocacy work has mainly been behind the scenes. I wrote my legislators and other lawmakers pushing for laws prohibiting child marriage, even with parental or guardian consent. Unseen Housewives gives me an opportunity to step out of the shadows and share my story. I hope that by sharing it, another girl will not go through what we all experienced." And I think it's also, you know, I wonder if, you know, the fact that it's parody almost in a sense, if that was unique as well.
Definitely unique. It was definitely a different, I guess, take on it, but remember that it's not purely entertainment. It is a fact of the matter. It does happen more often than not. Every story is unique, but we all wind up in the same place. Thankfully, we're able to use our voices and to help out, but I really do hope that at least you take from it something to help somebody else, or to stop it, or to, you know, go to the legislatures, or go and, you know, advocate, write letters, even just voice your opinion. One voice does actually make a difference.
Exactly. I mean, 7 states, that's all because of those of us who have stood up and insisted. So Bruno and Jihan, what made you create Unseen Housewives? Why are you passionate about ending child marriage in the US?
So for us at Area 23, it's a matter of responsibility. I think the word is responsibility. We should all be feeling responsible to protect and help our children here in this country. It's unfortunate that we see so much abuse, and marriage is a legal excuse to justify child abuse in this country. It's just absurd. So we just want to help and help these hands.
Mhm. And I know that you learned about the issue from your wife, Morgan, who is a psychiatrist and works with children, and Morgan is in the audience. And she gets the thanks for making this project happen, because she brought this issue to you.
Jihan, I know you want to say something about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I think it's a duty more than anything else. I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time with great creative people. And I just wanted to shed light on this topic. I come originally from the Middle East, a small country called Lebanon, where it's actually legal also to marry at a very young age. And I think that through our art and our craft, we are maybe able to change the world in some kind of way. And this is what actually pushed me to do this. I was very happy to be on board and to help.
And you not only did Area 23 donate this entire video, pro bono is a huge project, but you also got a lot of other creative types and professionals to donate their time pro bono.
Correct. We were very grateful for that. A lot of people came in, helped us through it, film it, gave us locations, gave us everything just to help the cause.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of pro bono services. The director was from Brazil, came in, donated his time, because we just, you know, people who just want to see an end to child marriage in the United States. All right, so you are now about to be among the first people in the world to watch the premiere of Unseen Housewives, a trailer for a show that must not go on. And if all goes well, we will watch it right now. And by the way, a round of applause for Mike, our AV guide. And while we're waiting for that to pull up, I also want to read another part of the statement that Jennifer sent. And she wrote, "Today, I stand in my truth, sharing my story 30 years after my marriage ended. I can't get back the years that were stolen from me by child marriage, but I can do my best to make sure another girl doesn't have my same experience. My hope is an end to child and forced marriage. Our girls deserve more from us."
Okay, get this. Okay, girls, what are y'all gonna do when you turn 18? I don't get hurt. I'm from Mississippi, the Magnolia State, but my life is not flowery at all.
I'm from the Sunshine State, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows for me.
I'm from the land of 10,000 lakes. I feel like I'm drowning in my marriage.
I'm from the city that never sleeps, which makes sense to me since I live in a nightmare.
Here's an exclusive first look at the unseen Housewives.
I asked my dad, what if I say no? And he said, you have no choice. That's it.
I mean, he beats and rapes me every day. And now he started beating and raping my baby?
My dad tried to kill me. His face was, I'll never forget it.
I still can't believe my dad took me to the courthouse and signed the papers for me to get married.
And was it his idea?
No, it was my stepmother's. She hated me and wanted to get rid of me. So she convinced my dad.
We're old enough to get married, but we're not old enough to get a divorce. How fucked up is that? I'm invisible. I have no say and I have to do what I'm told by my husband. I actually just found out that my parents told me to drop out of high school. First, they pushed me into an arranged marriage and now they want me to drop out of high school? There goes my dream of becoming a physician.
The pedophile started in on me at 14, and by 16 I was married, so all legal.
Did you tell anyone?
No, I didn't. I went to the ER because the baby wasn't moving, and there was this female nurse, and I think she knew something was wrong, so she kicked everybody out of the room, and she said, "You're terrified, tell me what's happening," and I froze. How can they not see how messed up this is?
The other day I got so desperate, I drank a whole bottle of acetone because I couldn't find anything else.
I'm the real Fatima. At the age of 15, I was forced to marry my cousin and drop out of high school. This isn't a reality TV show. This is our reality. Child marriage is legal in the majority of the United States.
I was groomed by a pedophile at age 14 and married by age 16. I turned into a housewife at 14, but nobody seemed to care when it happened.
Call it what you want, I call it rape. Abuse. I'm 16 and I'm stuck. I guess I would say like a prisoner.
Yeah, you need a minute to kind of recover after that. I see some tears in the audience and I can relate. And in fact, I want to ask all of you to think of one word that captures how that made you feel. And if you're on Zoom, I'll ask you to put that one word in the Q&A. And if you're in the room, I'm going to ask you to take your orange card, the other side that's still blank, and in big letters, so Becca and Sam can see it, if you could just put one word that captures how that made you feel. And I want to get some sense. And Alex, what kind of words are we seeing on Zoom? Seen.
Seen, angry, outraged, furious, desperate, and ashamed.
Wow. Okay. Yes, I can relate to a lot of those. And I wonder if the one seen came from a child marriage survivor. Becca, what kind of words are you seeing on that side of the room? Outrage, angry, good. Sad, devastated, helpless, horrified, shocked. All right, and Sam, what about that side of the room?
And just before, I just want to confirm the person that said seen was a child marriage survivor.
The person who said seen was a child marriage survivor. Wow. Okay, Bruno and Jihan, you made.
On this side, yeah. On this side, we've got a lot of similar words. I see confused, disregarded, not alone, real, devastated, outraged, heartbroken. I'm so sorry. Embarrassed, thank you. Anyone else over here? All right, yeah, I think that captures it. Thank you.
Yeah, so a pretty strong reaction. And Bruno and Jihan, I wonder, is that the reaction that you wanted?
Yeah, it's this and much more, honestly. We wanted people to react, but also to act on it. There is a lot of words that can describe, words cannot even describe this, but actions might. We might be able to end this with actions. So I see that there's a lot of people in the room. I think we can together to try to help this.
That's such a great point. I think that's the important message here, is that this is not a hopeless cause. We can do something about this. And all right, so Pat and Jen and Fatima, most of us never get to watch a professional actor portray some of the worst moments of our lives. And all of you got to watch this before because we wanted to make sure that you were able to process it before this event here today. It was very, very emotional. We all watched it together on Zoom. All of you got very, very emotional. And I wonder, now that you've had some time to process it and watch it again, do each of you have one word that captures how it makes you feel?
Angry.
Angry.
So the first time I watched it, I don't know, at some point I just completely broke down crying. Didn't see most of it. I had to watch it a few times in pieces. And when she said, think about the word, and my thought was broken, because I was in that moment broken again. I was that broken kid from a broken home, all my dreams shattered, and it floored me. But given a little time, it's turned to gratitude, because I survived. Some didn't. Some are still broken. So I'm grateful for Brady, and I'm grateful that we're doing this.
So my word keeps changing. Early on, it was devastated and seen and all that, but there was one detail that absolutely wrecked me. I watched it on my iPad and blew it way up, and I noticed that one of the actors was wearing overalls. And for me, as a 14-year-old, I didn't like anything in maternity stores because it was all so old. And so I wore, anytime I was at home and not seen in public, I wore overalls because you can unbutton the sides for the bump. And I realized in that second that people dress their kids in overalls. And that's what made me completely lose it. That detail was picturing myself as a teenager wearing overalls, so I didn't look like a pregnant old woman. And yet I felt like a pregnant old woman. And that wrecked me. Today, it's more crystallized into compassion / enraged.
A lot of rage.
Rage, a lot of rage. And you know what? Rage is where activism happens. That's what I believe. So, yeah. Yes, exactly. And it gives you that energy and that fire. Bruno and Jihan, you were on the Zoom with us when you saw how emotional the survivors, and Jennifer was on with us as well. You saw how emotional they all got watching this. And I wonder, was that the reaction you wanted and the words that you're hearing from the survivors?
Yes and no. I mean, I wanted them to, it was like putting your finger on the wound. It was very intense seeing them cry and being able to, reopen doors that maybe they wanted to forget. But I'm also very happy that this is something to show and to tell these stories, and that we were so authentic, in the way we portrayed the story for everybody to see and hopefully act upon it.
Yeah, and I just can't say how grateful we are. Did such an extraordinary job of, it starts out, it's like a reality TV, so much fun, the splashy shots, and then how quickly it turns into this hellish reality, just brilliantly done. I want to read also what Jennifer wrote. Her one word, she said, her one word reaction was surreal. And she wrote, it's hard looking at this as an adult, knowing that she was not protected by the adults in her life. I just want to hug her and say, I'm so sorry. Fatima, you were the only survivor who was on set when Unseen Housewives was shot. And I wonder what that was like. I know I talked to you soon after, and you talked about having that same kind of reaction of wanting to protect the girl.
Yeah, I felt bad for her. As she was acting and saying her lines, I was looking at her and I felt bad for her. I was like, oh my God, she's a kid. And then in that same moment, I was like, oh my God, that's me. Or that was me. So I just blacked out. So I forgot my lines. I couldn't say anything. I froze. So I was like, I can't believe that happened. And no one did anything. So seeing that just, it gets you thinking. And if something like that doesn't get you moving, then I don't know what would. Somebody has to do something. These girls either wind up dead or miserable or on drugs. And it's a real problem. And I hope that, each and every one of you takes something from here today, because it could be anybody that this happens to. Unless we all get on the same train of thought to stop it, it won't stop.
Exactly. And did you get a chance to talk to the actor who portrayed you?
Oh, I said she was great. She was great. I was like, wow, you're really great. I was just, yeah, she, there's like moments where she looked like me as a kid. So I'm like looking at her and I'm like, oh my God, you could be my kid. It's crazy, but.
And it's amazing how Area 23 even managed to get actors who look like the survivors they portray, and they have like that essence, the
attitude,
the badassery,
yes. You
yeah.
guys did great. Thank you.
Really, a round of applause for Area 23. You really did an extraordinary job. Now, I want to ask all of you another question before we go to the Q&A. I want to ask whether Unseen Housewives watching this video has given you a better understanding of the devastating impact that child marriage has on individual lives, individual girls here in the United States. And if you're on Zoom, I'm going to ask you to use the Zoom poll to answer yes or no. And if you're in person, I'm going to ask you to hold up the A card for yes and the B card for no. And we want an honest answer. We're not just fishing for compliments. We really want to know what you think about whether this gave you a better understanding of the impact on lives. Alex, what does the Zoom poll show?
So far, overwhelmingly, yes. About 98%, yes.
98%, okay, but there were a couple there who didn't find that. And then what about in person? I'm seeing, Becca, what do you see on your side of the room? A sea of yeses. All right, well, thank you. We weren't fishing for compliments, but we like them. And then what about on this side of the room, Sam? The blue spoke for itself. Thank you. Yes, I'm curious to know, someone who answered no online, what that was and whether maybe it was someone who already had a very deep understanding of the issue. So there was nothing we can do to give an even deeper understanding. And now we have a few minutes for Q&A. If you are in the room and you have a question, I'll ask you to write it on a card and hand it to Becca, is on that side of the room. She's our Director of Advocacy and Outreach. She's the one who's going state by state, making sure legislators do the right thing. And if you're on that side of the room, you can pass it over to Sam, our Senior Director of Client Services. And want to hear, and then if you're on Zoom, use the Q&A to ask any question you might have. Alex, do we have any questions on Zoom?
We do. We have a number of questions on Zoom. One here is for the Area 23 team, and someone's asking, what was the most surprising part of this experience for you?
Most
question.
surprising part. Good question. I think the resilience and strength from people here in the room, survivors from child marriage. You guys showed up, you're here, you're standing for it. It shows how resilient and how helpful you are for the cause. And that's wonderful to see, someone standing for it. In every single opportunity that you have, you stand for it again and again. So thank you for doing this.
These are extraordinary women. Thank you.
Another surprising thing is actually the kindness that we saw around the people who helped us produce this movie, who stood by us and who gave their time and their, art and craft and hearts towards this film pro bono without getting paid. This was amazing. And one thing that was surprising to me, coming from another totally different country, is, a country like the United States is supposed to be the country of the free, where freedom is supposed to reign. These girls are encaged, they're in prison. There's nothing free about that. So this was really surprising to me. And that's why I wanted to be, one of these tiny voices who could speak up. Thank you.
This is supposed to be land of the free and home of the brave. And yeah, at least we have the brave.
Yes.
Let's get the free part down too. All right, Becca, what about your side of the room? Any good questions or interesting questions?
Run,
Run.
run. It's far and it's fine, Brady. Like, don't do it. I mean, I would say, just to speak out, say something. A lot of times I'll hear, I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, I thought it was my fault, or I thought I would lose this, or I thought I would lose that. That's all tomorrow problems. Take care of today problems and get safe, get out of there. You can't fix it.
And I would add to that, you deserve help and you can get help. So reach out to us at Unchained, as Jen said. Reach out to a local advocate. It's not easy for a minor to escape, but reach out. We can get creative. We can do whatever possible to help you. That's a good question. Sam, what about your side of the room?
Got a few questions that fall into similar categories. When you approach legislators who don't want to pass these laws, who or what are they defending? Why isn't this a no-brainer for everybody?
Very good question. Why wouldn't legislators jump on simple common sense legislation that harms no one except child rapists, costs nothing, and ends a human rights abuse? The US State Department calls marriage before 18 a human rights abuse. And the best answer I can give is, no legitimate reason. I've never heard a good reason, but often it just boils down to misogyny. Child marriage is happening overwhelmingly to girls, and legislators are not accustomed to passing legislation that's just going to help girls. And probably one of the most common arguments that we get from legislators goes something like this: well, I'm just an old-fashioned kind of guy. I still believe if a girl gets pregnant, she has to get married, even if she was raped. And there are legislators who are not embarrassed to say that out loud. And we have, by the way, we have other, what we call vomitocious excuses that legislators have given for clinging to child marriage. And if you follow us on social media, unchainedatlast.org, so twitter.com/unchainedatlast.org or unchainedatlast.org and all the social media platforms, we do have vomitocious Wednesdays where we share some of the vomitocious excuses we've heard from legislators, because it's nothing like publicly shaming an elected official to get them to do the right thing. All right, and Alice, we have another question online? Oh, it's 3:29 already, but yeah, one.
I have two very quick questions, and they are
Okay.
related to each other. I have people asking about the availability of this video online, which
Very good question about the availability of the video online. So you saw in the video, it said unseenhousewives.com. That website is not even active yet because you are actually this is, first time we're screening this. So that website will be available as
soon.
as of soon. As of soon. But meanwhile, I encourage all of you to go to unchainedatlast.org to learn more about child marriage and forced marriage in the United States and what you can do to help.
Which was actually the next question I had from a lot of people was,
Oh.
how can I help? How can I help end child marriage in the United States? That was the next biggest question on Zoom.
My favorite question in the world. And so because we're running out of time, I will say quickly, if you go to unchainedatlast.org, you can see there are so many simple ways that you can help end child marriage by following us on social media, joining our email list, joining one of our coalitions, taking action on one of our email campaigns if we have an active one in your state. These are all things that help move the movement forward, because really what it takes is a groundswell. And I will leave you with this important thought. There are some human rights abuses that we all agree are heartbreaking and terrible, but there's no simple solution. We might not be able to eliminate them in our lifetime. Child marriage in the United States is not one of those human rights abuses. Child marriage in the United States is one of those rare issues that we all agree is terrible. And we can eliminate it not only in our lifetime, but we can eliminate it this year if we all stick together and just insist that our legislators do the right thing and pass legislation to meet the marriage age 18, no exceptions, in all 50 states. Let's do it.
Let's do it.